Freedom Fighters, I'm coming back at you with another one. And I'm going to do something a little different. I told you I was going to, switch around these Friday weekly wrap up videos. And I'm kind of just going to go more into like my Manic Monday rants. And just kind of go off on stuff. And less likely like run down the news and stuff. I'm still going to talk about the news and stuff. And that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. I think I'm just going to do it a little differently and not follow everything so closely. And, the world is so doom and gloom and everything's so crazy nowadays that I don't even really have time anymore to be checking up on the news all the time. But even if I did have time, like, I don't even really care to follow it as much anymore. But, one thing that I did follow and I just found pretty interesting was the precious metal prices are booming. So I don't know if you paid attention to that. I'm definitely going to be covering that here in the future. But one of the main things I wanted to talk about today was I was watching this Glenn Beck video. And I mean, I was never really a big fan of his. I mean, he always, struck me as like a rhino type person. Um, After, a couple years ago, he kind of hopped onto the MAGA side, and then I saw him on AJ's show a few times, and I mean, he's had some good takes, but, at the end of the day, he's still really not a part of this freedom fight and stuff he was talking about. But anyway, this past video he did was called, like, um, it was like, you don't want civil war. Civil war is not what you think, or something like that. And I mean, I've done a video similar to it. I think it was called like "Be Careful What You Wish For" or something like that. Um, and he goes along the whole thing, and I can't remember exactly what he said, like verbatim. I might post some clips to it, but essentially he was like, you're gonna lose your weekend picnics, or you're not gonna be in your gated communities with your portfolios and your 401ks and all this stuff. All that stuff goes to the wayside when the Civil War kicks off. And I'm thinking, like, we don't live in gated communities with 401ks, and all these stock options and bonds and portfolios, right? Luckily, I was smart enough to at least hop onto the silver train a while back and get, as little as my broke ass could afford. So luckily, I did at least one thing right financially. But again, it's not, getting me anywhere. It's not going to be like my safe haven and my escape to freedom or anything like that. I mean, who knows the way it could end up going, but I'm going to save that for the precious metal video coming up in the future. So if that's what interests you, like, share, subscribe, do all the things, and that'll be coming down the road. But, I wrote a comment in his video about the Civil War and all that stuff, and I forget what someone in the comments was saying about it. It's a similar thing, like, oh no, yeah, you don't want that to happen because of this, and that. And I, used an analogy or whatever that I said, you don't want one, but you need one. And that's kind of where we find ourselves out today. And I said, it's kind of like when you're stuck with a knife, and it's like, yeah, you don't want to pull it out, but you have to pull it out. And that was actually a bad analogy. And the guy was telling me, like, well, you actually don't want to pull out a knife. And I know that you don't want to just yank out a knife, but the knife does have to come out. And what he was talking about was, whenever you're impaled with an object, it's almost, reflex or muscle impulse to just grab it and yank it, get it out there. Well, that usually causes more injuries. It causes more injuries coming out than it does going in. Um, and if it goes in and you leave it in, you want to get yourself to the hospital and, under doctors and surgical care, they carefully remove it, and if anything tears or you have any internal bleeding, you're already there. They're quick on the scene, to help you and stitch you up, or give you pain meds and go through the process of getting it fixed. That's how Steve Irwin died, when he got hit by the stingray barb. And I mean, I guess that pierced his heart. So regardless of if he pulled it out or whatnot, um, but and anyway, that was like a bad analogy. It's more of like having to put a pet down, right? Your pet's beyond saving. The writing's pretty much on the wall. You don't want to put them down, but you need to. You know where it's headed, so like it has to get done. And which is, I've described our current situation plenty of times. You can keep avoiding it, and I would recommend avoiding it, right? It is a true video. And as I said in the other one, be careful what you wish for. You don't want this, but when I see it, it's like we need it. And I just don't see any other way where we actually get our freedoms and break free from these people without some kind of putting our foot down and drawing the line in the sand and saying it doesn't get any further, but there needs to be repercussions, right? A red line or putting your foot down means nothing when it's not backed up. And they continue just to cross the red line. Well, then the next time you draw a red line, they'll just do it again because there's no repercussions. That's what we've been at in this country, with allowing our freedoms to erode. Um, everything that we allow. Um, the taxes and illegals, and people taking our benefits that aren't even supposed to be here. They just arrested an illegal alien in Chicago that was a police officer. I reported last week about the what is it, Ilhan Omar's district. The police badges are now in Arabic, and it's like these people, they don't care about upholding your constitutional republic. These people are here to conquer. They hate you, they hate your country, they hate your culture, and they're there to bring theirs. And these people are there to follow orders, and to follow the orders of the Marxists that want to bring down the republic. And I often ask myself nowadays, do we even have what it takes to take back this country? I mean, I don't know if you saw this guy they're pushing out now as the new Charlie Kirk, is like Brillin Hollyland or something, but it's the continuous cuckery of the right. This guy, he's like flying around on a private jet. Your typical suit and tie, country club Republican. Um, and it's like this is who they're trying to push along. He's giving all these cuck takes. He says he wants more immigration. Immigration is a part of America, even though he countered Trump on the Qataris getting an air base. He said, "Oh, this isn't America first." Um, but he has plenty of non-American first takes. And the right, it's like I always say, man. I did a video too about the winning right, John Mark and the winning right, where I asked the same question: do we even have it anymore? Um, to win, and what does winning look like, I guess. But the right has often, I talked about it tons of times, the false bravado, right? The tier one operator, your favorite gun tuber on here, who's a black ops green beret, and he paratroops out of black helicopters, and does 3 a.m. missions, and he shoots a nail head. He can knock a nail in at 500 yards, and he's Sergeant Badass. But constantly he's basically like me here on YouTube bickering about all the corruption and garbage that's going on in the politics, but he actually has the skill set to get something done. And what I always said, I mean, you got these leftists out here, Molotov cocktailing buildings, tearing down, burning down cities, taking shots at the president, taking shots at Charlie Kirk and conservative, speakers, moderate conservative speakers at that, shooting at senators on the baseball field during practice. I mean, they are constantly in motion, and our side builds themselves up as these tier one operators, and everyone's a big tough guy. Yeah, like I said on one video about Tim Kennedy and all these military guys, they ain't gonna do nothing, man. They talk about all their operating and all their skills. All they do is follow orders. That's the only time they operate. They don't operate on their own. They don't do what needs to be done, unless there's someone in their ear saying, soldier, you have to go. They ain't doing nothing but sitting here bickering on YouTube or their social media as well. It's like the jacked up bodybuilder, who's really just a little pussycat. What was that movie with The Rock in it? The bodybuilder movie where they kidnapped the guys and stuff. I forget the whole thing, but yeah, but I mean that was based on a true story. But anyway, they tasked this guy to be the guard the hostage that they kidnapped, and he was like talking with them and being cool and all this stuff. And I forget what he said, but the hostage was like, "Man, these guys don't feed me, or like they feed me garbage or something like that." And the Rock's character would like sneak off and get him cheeseburgers and stuff, and he was like sympathizing and like helping the hostage that they were holding ransom for money because the guy was rich. But um it's like the typical, like the meme, tatted up UFC fighter with like blood drops coming out of his mouth and skull and dagger tattoos and flames and everything all over his body, and he's talking shit and all this stuff in the pre-fight, and then he goes out there and like the other guy gets like a 10-second knockout. That's pretty much the analogy of the right. That's the way the right always acts, and I've covered it over and over about the Civil War be over in 24 hours, and our side has all the guns, and they don't know what bathroom to use, and all this stuff. Well, look what they're doing, right? Once again, they are still, they must be pretty damn resilient, because they're still out in the streets. They're still protesting. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at ICE, boxing in ICE agents. They just had a big thing go down in Chicago the other day. They're firing off tear gas rounds and everything. These guys are in full CERN gas masks and all this stuff, and it's like the left is organized, man, and the left is actually good at doing this stuff. The right hasn't fought in the streets in literally years upon decades upon decades. But it's like, man, what has the right become? All this stuff. I saw this other Fox News article the other day. Ma'am Donnie posted something, and they were like, "Oh, he took a picture with an anti-LGBTQ activist," and this is how they think this is their hit piece on Mandami, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's gonna become governor of New York and or mayor or whatever it is." And they're like, yeah, he's an anti-LGBTQ, and it's like this is what's become of conservatism. This is what the Republicans have become. Now they're defending, the woke movement. They're always moving the goalpost. I posted this this meme the other day. It's something someone was talking about this, and I was just like, the Republicans are just what the Democrats were 15 years ago. right? They call themselves the progressives, and they're moving forward their woke, cyberpunk, 1984 dystopia, and they keep pushing forward. And rather than hold the line and stick to your morals and principles, the Republicans just end up doing Democrat light, a couple years later. It's like, oh no, we're against gay marriage or we're against this, and then the left pushes for it, and then they get it, and then over time they're like, well, yeah, I mean, we support gay marriage, we just don't, support this other stuff. Now the left is full on like, yeah, we support maps and, um, child predators and illegal aliens and all this and in the future it's just going to be like, yeah, well, we support a little bit of that, and not this crazy stuff they're doing now, whatever that's going to be. And the funny part of that meme was like, Republicans in the future are going to be like, we need to return to a traditionalist 2010 society. You know, 2010 was when everything was so great and historical, and this is the farthest they can see back, and they conserve nothing. I've talked about it so many times. The conservatives, the Republican Party, whatever you want to call it, is dead. Stephen Miller posted something about that the other day too. A few people have, but it's like, um, whatever the Republican Party is or whatever, it's not just enough to be Republican. You have to be anti-Marxist, or you have to be MAGA or something like that. And even the MAGA movement's cucked now. So again, it's like it's the constant cuckery of the right. So I mean, I guess that's the rant for today. And the question, or what I'm asking is, do we even have it in us anymore? Do we even have what it takes to win? Do we know what winning looks like? Let me know what you guys think. Until the next one, you know what it is. We are on our own. No one's coming to save us, so get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.